Hey everyone, welcome to the Slingshot Group podcast. I'm your host, Tim Foot, CEO of Slingshot Group, where we build remarkable teams and healthy culture through staffing and coaching. And for today's conversation, I'm joined by my new friend, Joey Odom. More about Joey in just a minute. But we all want to lead and be part of remarkable teams, right? But so many of the leaders I talk to express concern about how hard it is to stay engaged and minimize distractions when there's so many things vying for our attention. Now, we all have great intentions to be fully focused, but we get pulled out of the moment by all of those notifications because the number one culprit is our phones. Now, I've been in situations where I've been distracted by pressing issues that needed my attention because the notifications have popped up on my phone. I've seen people and team members' voices not be heard because they've been taken out of the moment, distracted by their devices. Well, there are ways around that, and our friend Joey is going to talk about that in today's conversation. I thought this was an important conversation, but as you get deeper into it, it becomes a vital conversation. So let's jump in. Well, Joey Odom, welcome to the Slingshot Group podcast.
Tim, it is fantastic to see you. I'm so excited about our conversation.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to it. Joey and I met at a nonprofit and faith-forward for-profit leader gathering we hosted in Nashville. And Joey and I had just brief conversation there, but immediately connected at a deep level with the purpose of his organization. And I want to start right here, Joey. How did missing a soccer goal at your kid's soccer game set in motion a passion project that turned into something far bigger? I mean, we're digging right in, right?
Yeah, let's get at it. Let's go ahead and just point out all my failures, Tim. That's a great idea. I think just like anything that has real passion behind it, like you said, it does begin with our own personal failures. And this was no different for me when my son Harrison was 5 years old. Harrison is 16 now. And he's the greatest kid in the world, by the way. And he was the greatest kid in the world at 5 years old. And the greatest kids in the world are not usually the most successful soccer players, from what I've observed. The scorers on the team are usually the aggressive kids who appear to be parolees or something like that. So Harrison was a sweet kid, and everybody on the team this year had scored a goal on the team except for Harrison. But this one particular Saturday, about midway through the game, I was out, frankly, Tim, kind of enduring another hour of kids soccer. But midway through this game, Harrison rears back his leg and he kicks. And this moment, it almost plays. You kind of see it like a slow motion movie, like a gladiator moment where the James Horner music comes on and the ball glides slow motion over the grass into the back of the net. Harrison scores his very first soccer goal, and these sweet parents on the sidelines went wild because they knew that Harrison had not scored a goal and everybody else had. And his coach even runs out. His coach runs out, picks him up. But there's this moment right in between the ball hitting the back of the net and his coach picking him up when Harrison did something that 5-year-old boys do. And that's turn to the sidelines, right? To lock eyes with dad, to see the pride and the smile on my face and share this really magical moment. And it was magical, except, like you said, I missed it. I missed every bit of what I just described. My wife is the one who retold that story to me because I missed every bit of it. When Harrison looked over, all he saw was the top of my head because I was looking down at my phone at I don't know what. It could have been an important email. It could have been a group text. I don't know what it was. But I do know that there's only one soccer goal in Harrison's life, and I missed it. I do know that I had a relationship with an object, which is weird, an object that was getting in the way of my most important relationships in my life. And I have those words now for it, but the only words I had at the moment was something's wrong, right? It was just like something's wrong here. This picture doesn't look right. And so again, now we have the words to say a relationship with the phone was getting in the way of relationship with other things. But I just felt this feeling of dis-ease. And I found, Tim, that I wasn't alone, that there were a lot of other leaders. By the way, at the time I was in commercial real estate at the peak of my career. Everything's going great. My co-founder, Heath Wilson, who we'd meet, or we would found the business years later, Heath was doing the same thing. Heath had started a tech company. He sold it for a bunch of money. He did great on the exit, but he was struggling too. So successful people in the world, moms, dads, no respecter of faith or politics, this device was getting in the way of all of our greatest intentions when it came to relationships. And so that set me on a path. That was a moment where I said, basically, when I said something's wrong, maybe implied in that was maybe things could look different. And so since then, have been on a journey to help the world look a little bit different for my family and for a bunch of other families and for leaders and people out who are struggling with this device in our pockets.
Joey, this so resonates with me. We're both dads of boys, two boys, and my boys are athletes. And I've been there. And also the interesting thing, the thing that grabbed me is when you said your boy looked over at you, because my boys know that I don't know much about football. And they both play football. And I don't know that much about basketball, but they still will always look over when they do something special. And it's the greatest thing. You know, I want to rescue you because I hate this happened to you, Joey, but out of it has birthed this amazing organization. But I want to rescue you by asking, did somebody else film the goal? Did somebody?
No, it's gone. Here is the slight redemption is that Harrison claims to not remember that. So I've told that story and he says, Dad, I don't remember that, which is good. Maybe that's just trauma blocking it out. I don't know. I'll find out.
Your kids are nicer than my kids, because my kids will say, I looked up, but you're looking at your phone. They know how to get me, because they'll say, you just spend too much time on your devices. And well, let's not talk about them because they're 17 and 15 at time of recording. But it's interesting, you know, I when you open your eyes to this, you know, you see it on the shuttle to the rental car company, the shuttle to the hotel, the train at the airport, the plane. Everybody is on their phones.
Yeah.
So it looks like we have a whole society and culture that's more distracted than ever before.
Yeah.
Is this perception or reality? Quantify this for us, Joey.
I mean, it is pure reality. And one thing I want to preface all of this discussion with, and for anybody listening, what can naturally happen when it comes to a discussion on technology and phones is defenses shoot all the way up. And
or
then we
they
say,
might switch off. They might stop listening to this podcast. Don't stop listening, please.
Exactly. So here's the good thing. There's no condemnation in this discussion. You're talking to the chief of sinners right here in me. So there's no condemnation in this discussion. And this is not going to end with just you leaving feeling bad. It's not going to end with you saying like, oh, great, someone else told me it's bad. This is a practical discussion. And not only that, it is a super hopeful discussion. I believe as parents and as leaders, this is the greatest opportunity we have in front of us. And we can get it right. That's the great news, that we can get it right. Now, the truth of the matter is, your question, the truth of the matter is that we have a relationship with an object, and that's weird. The only people who have relationships with objects are children, and those children are the relationships they have with the objects they have are pacifiers and blankies and teddy bears. Those are called comfort objects that they cling to in the absence of relationships. We're back to, as adults, clinging to an object in the presence of relationships, in the presence of the people around us. So we're back to childhood holding on to this thing. And the defining characteristic of our relationship with our phones is our constant proximity to them. And a lot of this may sound a little bit obvious, but I think it's important to kind of very, very much clarify what it is that we're dealing with here. So we are dealing with constant proximity to our phones. 91% of us have our phones with us 24 hours a day. And because we have them with us all the time, we are interacting with them virtually nonstop. So again, this is only because of the proximity. I've yet to meet somebody who can type on their phone when they're not holding it, right? So it's because they're with us all the time. In fact, our usage of our phones, when people talk about phones, they say, oh, well, just silence your notifications. Okay, maybe, but the problem is that 89% of our smartphone usage is self-initiated. That we are the ones that are initiating this contact with our phones 89% of the time. And that's because we're with them all the time. And because we're interacting with them so much, we're more dependent on them than we actually should be. We shouldn't actually be this dependent on our phones. There are good things they do, but it leads to this real dependence on our phone, which does what? It leads us back to constant proximity. So proximity feeds interaction, which feeds dependence, which feeds proximity. So what if, and this is the premise of what we're doing, what if we broke that defining characteristic of this relationship, which is our constant proximity to them? If we can do that, then that will change the entire relationship we have with our phone. Now, what you may not have heard in that is the most obvious statement in the world. Hey, don't have your phone and then you won't use it as much. Duh, right? I mean, almost like someone saying like, "Oh, you want to get physically fit? Well, eat a little bit less and move a little bit more." Yes, obviously, and just like anything else, the most simple things are very difficult to actually do. But the concept itself, and the reason I'm saying all this, Tim, is because we're dealing, I believe, with a difficult thing, but it also is a paper tiger. This is something that we can overcome, and we're giving it a little bit too much power when we say, "Oh, I'm so addicted to my phone," or, kids these days, they're always on their phones. Hold on a second. We have agency over this. There are things that we can do very, very practically that will address this. And I promise you this is not an overpromise at all. When you change that relationship with your phone, you will change your relationship with everyone around you, including yourself.
I'm still getting over your stats.
Yeah.
91% 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling guilty over here because I mean, I can justify it all day long, Joey,
Yes.
that there's things on my phone that help me be more productive and have
Absolutely.
more free time, all of that. But the other stat, was it 86 or 88?
89%.
89.
Mm-hmm.
That we initiate. One quote I read of yours that was really intriguing to me and grabbed me was, you said, "I believe that we have an intimacy crisis in our relationships right now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it is not death by 1,000 cuts; it's death by 1,000 glances." Share a bit, Joey, about how challenging it is to lead at a high level at work and at home. Because we know that great leadership flows out of a healthy home life.
Yeah.
How challenging is it to lead at a high level at work and at home while having the number one distraction right next to you all the time in your phone? What kind of impact is this having on us?
I think this is like trying to run a marathon carrying a boulder. I think a marathon is really hard in and of itself, and it's virtually impossible carrying a boulder. So I think that's what we're trying to do when we're saying we're trying to lead well at home, we're trying to lead well at work. It's impossible when we're carrying this boulder. I think that the every good thing we want in life will be limited by our relationship with our phone. It's going to cap out there. It's just going to top out there. That we're leaving so much potential on the table because we're trying to do something that is impossible, which is focus and be intentional. And we have this thing that's screaming at us all the time, right? So when it comes to, let's start at home. And when I say intimacy crisis, I really do mean this. This is interesting. When you look at the divorce statistics over the last decade or so, it's pretty flat, but it's almost like using divorce statistics as the barometer for a healthy marriage. That's like when you say, like, when you hear people say like, "Well, I never made you buckle up, but you never died in a car crash." Like, does that mean you were really a good parent? Probably not, right? Like the barometer for a healthy marriage, I believe, is our level of intimacy. So when you look at the Gottman Institute, for example, the Gottman Institute says that healthy couples that really do remain married in a flourishing marriage turn towards their partner's bids for emotional connection 86% of the time. So they're turning to, while the opposite is only 33% of the time. Unhealthy couples, unhealthy relationships only turn towards their partner's bids for emotional connection 33% of the time. Tim, we are physically and we are emotionally unable to turn towards our partner's bids for connection when we're holding a phone. We just can't do it. It's actually just impossible. And so it's because we're constantly holding that happens. So we subvert our own date nights. We subvert our own conversations. And we talk about those glances. We all know this. If I'm in a conversation with my wife, we could have 30 minutes of connection. And right when she's starting to open up to me, or this could be my 14-year-old daughter, right when they're starting to open up towards me, all I have to do is take one glance. That moment is gone. And not just that moment, though. Not just is that moment gone, but their willingness in the future to open up to me again is probably diminished because they're going to remember, especially kids, those sweet little neuroplastic brains have been rewired in that moment to say, when I try to be vulnerable with dad, he shuts me down by looking at it. So I'm serious when I say our intimacy is dying and it's death by 1,000 glances at our phone. So as if that's not enough, let's go to the office. Let's go to work. Our own ability to focus is dying. So there's a study out of UC Irvine by Dr. Gloria Mark. She says it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus after you've been distracted. 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus after you've been distracted. But when we started on the RO journey, we started our business, I heard that stat and I told my wife, other than sleeping, I don't think I've done anything uninterrupted for 23 minutes and 15 seconds in a decade. So imagine trying to get into a state of deep work at the office when this thing keeps pinging me. And by the way, it could be Slack notifications, it could be email, whatever it is, but it's generally our phone. It's that thing that's beckoning to us. It's calling out to us all the time. So that's one, is that is killing our own personal ability to focus. But what if you're leading a team? What if you're a healthy leader? That same notion of intimacy, and this sounds weird in the workplace. And of course, when we say intimacy, we're just saying closeness, being fully seen, fully known, all that kind of stuff. That applies in the office as well. So what about when someone is talking to us about their aspirations or their hopes and dreams? Or what if you're in ministry and somebody's talking to you? It is killing your ability. Again, you're capped out by the relationship with your phone and your ability to provide ministry to that person or to lead them well in an organization. Or God forbid you be viewed as a hypocrite when you're the one in the meetings who's glancing at your phone, when you're the one who's trying to have a one-on-one or a performance review and you're doing that. This is crushing your credibility as a leader if you do not have this thing under control.
Well, not only that, Joey, and I'm sure that you guys are already starting to talk about this. The tyranny of the smart watch.
Yes,
And
that's right.
how it's on your wrist. I'm still getting over the stat from, was it UC Irvine, about distraction and how we get deep work done. I can't wait to get your wisdom on how we as leaders, just recently I was saying to our team, I commit to you, to you all, to being the most healthy leader I can be by prioritizing my walk with the Lord, by loving and leading my family, and by loving and leading you all in that order. And that's why I love it that we've talked about intimacy in the home. Then we've talked about focus at work. I want to get your wisdom on how we as leaders can model and build a culture where we are more connected than distracted in our teams. But first, let's get some tips on how we can better manage this in our own lives as leaders, and then how that translates to our teams. Help us out. What are some simple and practical tips we can implement to build better habits with our devices?
Well, one, you just said it, and I love that you said it because you said habits, and let's use that word. Let's not use addiction. And here's why. Just even semantically, I think it's important. When we say we're addicted to our phones, we are throwing our hands up in the air and they're saying, I can't do anything about it. The first step of the 12-step program is admitting your powerlessness over the thing. So that's addiction. But when you say habit, all of a sudden I say, well, I can do something about a habit. I know what to do about that. You have agency over the matter. So I love that you use the term habit. So let's begin with habit. Also, one that you said, like, how do we manage this? I want to go a little bit more extreme, and I want us to recognize, I'm going to tell you start, stop. These are the start and stop, is I want you to start with yourself here. As a leader, this is not your team's fault. This is not your team's problem. This is not your family's. It's not your spouse's fault. It's not your kid's fault. Start with yourself. If everybody, by the way, if all 8 billion of us on this, blue ball did this smartphone problem would be solved today if we all started with ourselves. We're very quick. And by the way, others have culpability. I get it. But what if you just began with yourself? So that's the start. The stop is you have to stop at nothing to get this right. Do not stop struggling here. You are going to fail. It's fine. I have a business all around putting your phone down, and I fail very regularly. But stop at nothing. Just because you fail at something, if you're lifting weights and you fail on a rep, you're not going to quit weightlifting forever, right? You're going to get back on the bench and you're going to do it again. So start with yourself, stop at nothing. That's the principle I want you to begin with. And let's take this very, very seriously because, like we said, your work, your relationships, everything's going to be capped out with the way that your relationship you have with your device. The other one is you said the relationships. Let's begin with the relationship. Recognize it is a relationship with your device and reprioritize, which is exactly what you just said. You gave the order of your priorities, and then we have to recognize a device, we have a relationship with it. Let's make sure that's slotted all the way down. So here I would give, and this actually goes for the workplace and for home. So I have 3 things. We call these the 3 S's. And I would encourage people to focus on this, and this is at work or at home. The first one is to spend 1 hour physically distant from your phone daily. 1 hour, spend 1 hour. And by the way, if that seems like a heavy lift, which it probably is if you've never done this, if you're in the 91% club, spend 5 minutes away from your phone, physically distant from your phone. You join the 9% club when you do that, just by spending 5 minutes away from your phone. But the real point there is to build up a muscle of physical distance from your phone. And when you do 5 minutes tomorrow, then do 6 minutes the next day and 7 minutes the day after that. And if you're already at an hour, do an hour and a half and then an hour 35. Begin to build up. Now, I want to be careful here. don't do this to the detriment of your work. You have to be selective and figure out, okay, am I a person who needs to be on call? Got it. Am I right now? Do I need to have some deep strategic thought by myself? Great. That's a time to put your phone away. Am I in a meeting with somebody? Is this a time for me to be away from my phone? Yes. So find those times, which leads into the second one. The second S is to just establish sacred times and sacred places where your phone is not present. So at home, it's the dinner table. At home, it's your kids' bedrooms. At home, it's watching a family movie together. It's all of those things. Just establish those yourself. At the office, meetings, begin there. That's the easiest one. Just when you are interacting with another human, that's a device-free zone. That's the second one. The third one is, and I love this one. This one's a little bit, if the other two are kind of science, this is the art, is I want you to search for moments of connection. And what that means is these moments when somebody, let's say one of your team members comes up to you and they say, hey, I'm really struggling on something. Can I talk to you about it? So there's a potential moment of connection. If it's at home, if your wife says, like, God, I really had a hard day, that's a potential moment of connection. If your kids come and they say, oh, Dad, you got to hear about what happened in history class today. But you have to constantly be investigating, be looking for these. And there's one appropriate response to this. One appropriate response. And to me, it's the 6 most powerful words in the English language when it comes to relationships in 2024. It's going to sound so dumb, by the way, Tim, just to take the wind out of your sails here. You just say this, just say, let me put down my phone. Those 6 words, let me put down my phone, and then physically remove your phone from the situation. Because what you have done in doing that is so powerful. What you've done is you've bestowed value to the person on the other side of the table. You've bestowed value on your team member. You've bestowed value on your wife or your kids. And in other words, what you're really telling them is, hey, there are 8 billion people on this earth who can theoretically reach me on my phone. And guess what? You are more important than every single one of them. Hold on one second. What does that do for an organizational culture? What does that do for intimacy in a marriage? What does that do for my 14-year-old daughter the next time she's confronted with something difficult, next time she's confronted with a body image comparison, where she may know, yes, this is tough, but you know what? I have value because my dad looks at me in the eyes. What does that do for my son, 16-year-old boy, young man who wants to be a good man? This is a game changer in your relationships, and it starts with 6 simple words and one powerful act of removing your phone from that situation and looking in the eyes of the person across the table from you.
Let me put down my phone. You know, Joey, I'm sitting here just, I've actually got like a tingling feeling because I'm realizing how important this conversation is for the leaders listening. Because if we can be more disciplined with this and start to take these steps, imagine the ministry impact in the local church.
Come on.
If leaders take these steps, and the mission impact of kingdom-focused, kingdom-minded organizations. I mean, this is huge and so simple. For reference, I want to say it again, those S's. Spend 1 hour physically distant from your phone. Sacred times and places where your phone isn't present. Bedrooms, dinner tables. Search for moments of connection. And those 6 words, let me put down my phone. I remember recently, Joey, I was with our lead team and we were in a work session and we were crowded around the whiteboard. There was probably, 14 of us. And I stepped back to the side of the room and there was this snapshot where I realized that nobody was looking at a device, that everybody was engaged in the conversation. And it was such a life-giving moment to see that, because we're all so often and so easily distracted by things that we absolutely feel are important. But I'll often see in meetings in any team. I mean, we walk into a lot of organizations and spend time in rooms with teams where somebody is on a device and somebody's voice is not being heard. If you were coming in to advise a team of leaders on how they can become more connected and less distracted, how do you transfer this? What are 2 or 3 things they should do right away in a team setting?
Yeah. I mean, I think one is, if you're in a team setting like this, just a consolidated place. So we've all heard about this idea of decision fatigue, and decision fatigue is basically minimizing the number of decisions you have to make on a daily basis so that you can focus your efforts on your most important decisions. So they talk about, Tim Cook with Apple, he had his same outfit every single day, right? They had the thing. So he reduced the number of trivial decisions he had to make. When we have our devices with us, we are making decision after decision after decision after decision, whether to look at the phone or not look at it. Do I pay attention to that buzz or do I not pay attention to that buzz? I saw a notification come up. Do I need to look at that or not? So we're making these constant decisions that are taxing our brain. If instead you make one decision, and let's talk about a meeting, for example. If you make one decision at the beginning to place it aside, we have our business, we have RO, we have the RO box. You can put your phone in the RO box, put your phone somewhere and make it part of the culture that meetings are focus times. And so instead then of having to be disciplined, you don't have to rely on discipline. I think we're unnecessarily using a lot of willpower and discipline. I think it's entirely unnecessary if we have a conducive environment to our goals. James Clear in Atomic Habits says environment is stronger than willpower. So let's stop relying unnecessarily on willpower. Instead, let's curate our environment to say, hey, this is what we do. So that's one. The other one, I believe for the church, and this is going to sound self-serving, and it is a little self-serving, but it's also a major truth. We have found that the most progressive churches out there, I'm speaking specifically to churches, recognize in order to have healthy leaders who are doing ministry well, we have to help them with their technology. So we have, and this was not something we began, this is something we got inbound requests for at RO, where churches saying, I need RO for my entire staff. So it was almost like how companies provide meditation apps and stuff to their employees. This is them saying, I want a tool to help my people build a healthy relationship with their phone. So I would highly recommend this for people who say, in my organization, we have a bunch of churches doing it who are saying, we just provide this screen time tool to all of our people. And that's a game changer. So they're doing it at home, which makes it a lot easier to do it at the office. And you as a leader are modeling it well because you can't look like a hypocrite. You got to do it yourself. So, and again, by the way, Tim, we're not a faith-based company. We're believers. Not all of it. In fact, our whole team, not all of our team are believers. We are a tech company. I'm a believer. My co-founder's a believer. We met at church, but we're not a faith-based company. But it's so apparent to me as on the outside world at a tech company, holy crap, the church can get this right. Like, this is an amazing opportunity for the church to get it right. And it begins organizationally. So that's a long way to say that, one, set aside, especially in meetings, like put it within your culture that you have to have physical distance from your phone when you're interacting with another human. That's one. The second one is, if you have the capacity to bring this in at the enterprise level, provide this to your people to make them healthy so they can be healthy in their relationships and healthy in ministry. R was an amazing tool for that.
Well, it's really interesting. We're seeing a lot of organizations do incentives around personal health.
Yes.
This absolutely makes sense around emotional and relational health. Speak a little bit more to how this can impact productivity.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of, again, we know this is the number one thing that are pulling people away from being productive and from entering deep work. So it is, but we've grown, Tim, to just accept its presence, accept that this is just the way things are going to be. And as believers, we don't believe that in any other area of our lives, right? We don't accept those things, right? We push back, we fight against those things. And so as a premise, we will push back on that in knowing, in just accepting the fact that this is always going to be present. No. We can do something about this. So when it comes to entering into that deep work, again, with the goal of, I'll say it again, with the goal of having healthy individuals. Again, that's everything. That's at home, that's at work, but then also so that you can go do effective ministry. Like, this is the thing that's taxing us the most. So you can then go do effective ministry to the people around you, and it is to your family. And it's not only, as we know, not just on Sundays, but it's also in the strategic planning times all throughout the week. So we all know it intuitively, and we all know it in our work, that this is the thing. This is the thing that's getting in the way of all of those great things we want for ourselves.
Mm. It's a huge distraction to productivity, which
Yeah.
is a big thing. Tell us or give us your thoughts. This is a side note.
Mm.
I've read stats that there's been big growth in the purchase of dumb phones.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that, sensing that? Where do you think the future is heading with all of this?
Absolutely. This is here's what I think, and we'll call this category digital wellness. So RO is a tool for digital wellness. We've seen this all throughout physical wellness. By the way, let's take a step back. It would be a ridiculous notion to tell somebody in the 1950s or 60s that someday people are going to pay money to burn calories. Like that people would laugh at that, right? That people would go belong to a gym. They're going to spend $150 a month to go somewhere for somebody to tell them how to exercise. That would sound ridiculous, right? But people recognized how important physical fitness was. They recognized, oh, wait a second, like this is contributing to a lot of health issues. So, and I need help removing this friction of doing something difficult but valuable. And so the physical fitness industry exploded, right? And then, a few years ago, all of a sudden people started seeing this decline in mental wellness. And so all of a sudden, not just through therapists and counselors, which was maybe taboo for a time, all of a sudden this started becoming more in vogue. And then you had all these other companies, whether it's meditation apps or whatever it is, the mental wellness industry exploded. I think we're experiencing the pain here of digital wellness so poignantly. I'm a firm believer that the digital wellness space, that digital wellness will vastly surpass physical and mental wellness because people feel it so deeply. And they're doing things, to your point, they're doing things like buying dumb phones. They're doing things that are so inconvenient. Why are they doing that? Well, they're doing that because the pain's so great. So they're taking measures that are helping them alleviate that pain. And I believe, again, the way we approach this is instead of just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I think we can actually change this relationship and we can actually maintain all the good and all the tools of technology. And we can actually get rid of those things that are getting in the way of our most important relationships.
Yeah. Often change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. And I think it seems like and sounds like that is what's happening. Joey, as we get ready to close this important conversation, tell us a little bit about RO and what that word means,
Yeah.
and what you're most excited about with the trajectory of your organization.
Yeah. RO is a term that comes from the Maori culture. So a little bit, your friends to the north, Tim, the Maori culture in New Zealand. And this is a beautiful, beautiful term that means to notice, means to turn towards, to take heed. And what I love about that is that this is not about the phone. What everything we just talked about, that has nothing to do with the phone. This has everything to do with the beauty of the world on the other side of the phone, with the beauty of relationships, with how it feels to be intimate in a relationship, to have full closeness, to be fully seen, fully known, fully loved. That's what this is about. To see that moment where your son scores his first soccer goal, right? To have all these beautiful moments, because our time here is very, very short. For us to be the most effective leaders that we can be, no matter where we are. That's what RO is about. And it just so happens that the number one inhibitor to those things, the number one distraction to those things are our phones. But we exist so that people can experience that beautiful life on the other side of it. And the thing I'm most excited about and by the way, RO is, again, it is a digital wellness tool. It helps you put down your phone. It gamifies the experience of being away from your phone. It comes in the form of an app that gamifies that experience of being away from your phone. People can level up. You can get the RO box along with an RO subscription. The RO box is a place that physically holds your phones. It's a beautiful decorative piece in your home where you place your phone in. It connects to an app, it charges your phone, and it quantifies the amount of time that you're away from your phone. And the thing that by far I'm most excited about right now, and I said it before, we are not a faith-based company. I'm a believer. My co-founder's a believer. We're not a faith-based company. And it's so clear to me that the church has an unprecedented opportunity to nail this, to get this right. I don't know that an opportunity has come along ever for the church to infiltrate culture in a positive way more than this. See, Tim, everybody feels this. Like, we're at a point in culture when it comes to technology where two things are true. One of them is that everybody feels the pain. We know the damage that our phones are doing to us. And the second thing is we know we should do something, but we don't know what to do. We don't have clarity on what to do. And this is no respecter of faith. It's no respecter of politics, that everybody feels this. But we know if we don't do something about this, that this generation of kids right now on Instagram and TikTok, if we don't do something about it, this generation of kids could be the very first generation of kids to die with more of other people's memories than memories they create on their own. So that is opportunity for the church. That's opportunity for the church to get it right. So we're partnering with Darren Whitehead, Church of the City in Nashville, with Gabe Lyons of Think Media. We're launching a 28-day digital fast to slow down, to lower the volume, to slow down, and for the church to lead it, for the church to give clarity to culture on here's how we do it. So it is a guided church-led initiative. It takes you through 4 phases of technology reimagination. And it can happen either in January or it can happen in Lent of next year. And what happens is the church experiences that. People experience it individually within. They go through the curriculum through 28 days of that, again, during Lent or in January. And then at the same time, they have the collective experience of doing it together. So everybody who participates is going to have access to RO for 60 days. And what that does for the congregation is that aggregates the total amount of time that everybody in the church has been on, will have been off their phones during that season. So you will see the collective action of this amazing thing happening of how many people are united together, spending time away from their phones. So I think it's an amazing, unprecedented opportunity, and we are thrilled to be a small part of that.
That's great. This is powerful, impactful work you're doing, Joey.
Thank you.
And you've talked about how to get connected to the digital fast. How can listeners learn more about RO and all the great work you guys are doing?
3 ways. One, if you want to provide this for your staff, and it could be within a church context or a nonprofit context, or if you're just a leader of an organization, just shoot us an email at info@goro.com. Secondly, if you want to go download the app, please do. Just download RO anywhere you download apps. And then the third one, if you're interested in the digital fast, go to digitalfast2025.com.
Joey, our kids, our families, our team members, our congregations, our missions are worth noticing.
Come on.
And thank you so much for this conversation and for helping us give our focus to the things that matter most and ultimately the one that matters most. Thanks for being with us today, Joey.
Thanks, Tim.
Well, that was an incredibly challenging conversation for me personally. I'm sure it was for you too. And I'm already thinking about ways that I can be better at separating from my device to have more relational impact and more leadership impact. An engaged leader is an effective one. An engaged team is a remarkable one. So if you enjoyed this, please share it with another leader and subscribe. And until next time, stay curious and reach for the remarkable.